It started 3 nights ago, exactly at 1:47 a.m. Ayan was in that fuzzy state between wakefulness and sleep when he heard it. A cell phone ringing. The sound echoed from somewhere inside his house. A faint, tinny melody that felt strangely out of place. It wasn't his phone. He knew that for sure. His was on silent, charging on the nightstand, and the ringtone. It was old, digital, monophonic tune, like something from a cheap phone from the early 2000s. It was soft at first, almost like a memory, but then it grew, louder and louder, as if whatever was making the sound was getting closer. The first night, Ayan brushed it off. It was probably a neighbor's phone, he thought. Maybe their window was open. The sound was just carrying in the still night air. He rolled over, pulled the pillow over his head, and eventually drifted back to sleep, the faint, persistent melody finally fading away. He barely even remembered it the next morning. The second night, it happened again. 1:47 a.m. The exact same digital ringtone, but this time it was impossible to ignore. It wasn't coming from outside. Sound was clear, sharp, and undeniably inside his house. Ayan sat bolt upright in bed, his ears straining in the darkness. It sounded like it was coming from the living room. His heart started to pound. He lived alone. There was no one else there. Who could possibly have a phone in his living room? He crept out of his bedroom, his bare feet cold on the wooden floor. The house was pitch black, silent except for that insistent, looping melody. He flicked on the living room light, flooding the space with a harsh, sterile glow. The ringtone stopped instantly. The sudden silence was almost as deafening as the sound had been. Ayan stood there for a long moment, his breath catching in his chest. He scanned the room, the couch, the coffee table, the TV stand. Nothing was out of place. There was no phone. He checked under the cushions, behind the curtains, everywhere he could think of. Nothing. He felt a chill crawl up his spine that had nothing to do with the temperature of the house. He told himself it was just his imagination, stress, lack of sleep. He went back to bed, but sleep didn't come easily. Every creak of the house made him jump. Then came the third night. Tonight, he had tried to stay awake, determined to confront whatever was happening, but exhaustion had won. He jolted awake, his body already tense. He didn't need to look at the clock. He knew the time. 1:47 a.m. and the ringtone. It was back. But this time, it wasn't in the living room. It wasn't down the hall. It was here, in his bedroom. The sound was so close, so crisp, it felt like it was right next to his ear. Ayan's heart hammered against his ribs, a frantic drumbeat against a steady, cheerful melody. He sat up, his eyes wide in the darkness, trying to pinpoint the source. Tick. The sound was coming from under his bed. Panic, cold and sharp, seized him. Every horror movie cliché he'd ever seen flashed through his mind. This can't be real, he thought. This is a dream, a nightmare. He pinched his arm, hard. The sting was real. The ringing continued, louder now, almost mocking. It felt like it was daring him. He knew he had to look. He couldn't just lie there, paralyzed by fear, while this impossible sound filled his room. He slowly, so slowly, swung his legs over the side of the bed. His body was trembling, his hands slick with sweat. He reached down, his fingers brushing against the soft fabric of the comforter that hung over the edge. Taking a deep, ragged breath, he lifted it. The ringtone stopped, abruptly. The world plunged back into a heavy, oppressive silence. For a second, Ayan just stayed there, crouched, holding the blanket, listening to the frantic thumping of his own heart. He needed to see. He fumbled for the flashlight he kept on his nightstand, his fingers clumsy and uncooperative. Finally, he grasped it, the cool metal, a small comfort in his hand. He clicked it on. A bright beam of light cut through the darkness. With a hand that shook so badly, He could barely hold it steady. He aimed the light under the bed. The beam swept across the dusty floorboards. There was nothing there. No phone, no mysterious box, no hidden speakers or wires. Just empty space and a few forgotten dust bunnies. A wave of relief, so powerful it made him dizzy, washed over him. It was his mind. It had to be. Auditory hallucinations. He'd read about them. It was a perfectly logical explanation. He let out a shaky breath and started to stand up, a nervous laugh already forming on his lips. That's when he felt it. A vibration, a strong, buzzing sensation against his leg. It was coming from his pocket. He froze, every muscle in his body locking up. That was impossible. He distinctly remembered turning his phone completely off hours ago, trying to ensure he wouldn't be disturbed. He never slept with it on. He slowly reached into his pajama pocket, his fingers closing around the familiar, smooth shape of his smartphone. He pulled it out. The screen was glowing. It had turned on by itself. And there, displayed in stark white letters against the black screen, was a new message notification. His blood ran cold as he read it. One single sentence, answered this time. Before his brain could even process the words, before he could react or throw the phone across the room, it happened. That dreaded, old-fashioned digital ringtone started playing again. But this time, it wasn't coming from under the bed or from another room. It was coming from the phone in his hand, his own phone. The screen flashed, illuminating his terrified face. An incoming call. When where the caller's name should be, it just said, no caller ID. Below it, the time, 1:47 a.m. And the word that made his soul tremble, ringing. His thumb hovered over the screen. Every instinct screamed at him not to answer, smash the phone, to run, to do anything but accept this call. But the message, answer it this time. What would happen if he didn't? Would it just get closer? The ringing felt like it was drilling into his skull. He couldn't take it anymore. With a final, shuddering breath, Ayan swiped to answer. He pressed the phone to his ear. Hello? He whispered, his voice cracking. There was no response, just breathing. Slow, deep, heavy breaths. It sounded impossibly close, like someone was standing right next to him, breathing directly into his ear. A dry, rattling sound. Kang. He wanted to hang up, but he was paralyzed. Kang could feel the warmth of the breath on his skin. Then, the breathing stopped, and a voice, a dry, rasping whisper, slithered through the phone and into his brain. I'm in the room. The call ended. The line went dead. Ayan stood frozen in the center of his dark room, the phone still pressed to his ear, the whisper echoing in his mind. And then, from directly behind him, the ringtone started again. Thank you so much for watching. If this story sent a shiver down your spine, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more terrifying tales. Let me know in the comments what you would have done in Ayan's situation. Until next time, stay safe and maybe turn your phone off at night.